Stetler to the speedster right.
Just a deep out pattern. Again, that speed that the Raiders have on offense really bothers some defenses. Now, we talked with some of the Seattle folks in defense yesterday. They said, hey, what do you do against speed? You just back off. At that time, number 27, Patrick Hunter, gave him just a little bit too much of a cushion. Very well executed and a good throw by Hostetler.
The ball spotted at the 48, 1st and 10 for the Raiders. And this is Nick Bell, and Nick Bell across midfield into Seattle territory. Stopped by Kevin Murphy. And we mentioned that Greg Robinson, the rookie, the leading rusher for the Raiders, is out of the lineup. Hurt his knee last week in Buffalo. He's out 3 to 4 weeks, and thus a chance for Nick Bell in his 3rd year out of Iowa to be the featured guy today. That's exactly what Art Shell had plans for him before the season started.
Well, they expected him to be the featured guy. Some nagging injuries have really kept him from being a factor this season.
2nd down and 6 for Hostetler. And he swings it out to Bell out of the backfield. And Bell, 1st down yardage all the way down to the Seahawk 36. And we'd like to welcome those of you who have been watching the Buffalo Bills and Philadelphia Eagles at Veterans Stadium. The Bills pull out a close one.
Defense, number 99. Penalties declined. 1st down.
The Bills with a big win in Philadelphia. The final was 10-7 there. Here the opening moments of this game. The Raiders and the Seahawks. Raiders at 7-5 and in the hunt for a wild card spot in the AFC. The penalty decline there, and now the ball at the Seattle 36 on the big pass play from Hostetler to Nick Bell. Play action this time. And a Hostetler to the near side, looking for the big tight end Ethan Horton, and it's incomplete. Robert Blackman, the strong safety, was all over the big tight end, but Ethan Horton unable to make the catch.
Almost a circus catch by Horton. Now, Horton is running just an out pattern, good protection. Hostetler throws the ball just a little bit off the fingertips, and the reason he didn't get that catch is, Dan, is because he was bobbling it. He didn't have possession when he went out of bounds. I may have gave him that if I was the official. I thought that was a pretty good effort.
You're kidding.
Well, I don't like offensive guys anyway, but I think that was a great effort by Horton trying to get that.
Juggling act by Ethan Horton brings up 2nd down and 10. That is Tim Brown in motion to the near side, and this is Nick Bell. And Bell, trying to turn the corner, is brought down at the 34-yard line. Last week, Nick Bell, 16 rushes, but just 44 yards. That gives him a 2.8-yard average for last week, and that's been pretty much the story for Nick Bell, who has missed 6 games with injuries this year.
Well, the hole was inside, and Rod Stevens, middle linebacker, shoots through it. Well, Bell does the smart thing, bounces it outside, and gets him a couple, just trying to avoid some of those Seahawks.
Well, in the offensive set for the Raiders, Tim Brown and James Jett. Alexander Wright also in on 3rd down and 7. And a timeout has been called by Los Angeles.
Los Angeles Raiders, that is their first charge team timeout.
Opening moments at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. We'll be right back. Shots on a clear day in the mid-50s in Los Angeles. Raiders on their first series here have it down at the Seahawk 32-yard line. Important 3rd down attempt conversion here, 3rd down and 7. Hostetler to the air over the middle. He's got Tim Brown, and Brown for the 1st down all the way down close to the Seahawk 20. Gain of 13 for Tim Brown, coming off a career best 10 receptions for 183 yards last week in Buffalo.
Well, I think Tim Brown, a lot of folks may not realize it, but I think he's having his best season. That time just running a little crossing pattern into the middle. And, you know, a lot of receivers don't want to get in there on 3rd down because they've loaded up with some extra safeties, one thing or another. Tim Brown's fearless. And I tell you what, I think he's a big part of the reason why the Raiders are still in it.
On the ground, Nick Bell for 3 or 4 yards up the middle inside the 20. He's down to about the 17-yard line. Antonio Edwards of Seattle made the stop along with Terry Wooden. But getting back to Tim Brown's performance last week in Buffalo, Dan, not only his career best, but Tim Brown had the 5th best receiving day in club history, and there's been a lot of great performances in Raider uniforms, so Tim Brown clearly having one of his best seasons, if not the best. 2nd down and 7. Hostetler will run it out, and he's close to the 1st down. I believe he will be short. Kevin Murphy made the stop, but we were having some fun last night with Jeff Hostetler, mentioning to him that without Greg Robinson, the Raiders' leading rusher, that Jeff Hostetler is the leading rusher on the field for the Raiders today.
Well, in the starting backfield, he has the most yards this season, and this is the reason why. And it's not out of design, but the thing that he brings to this offense is an extra dimension. Not only is he trying to go ahead and make some yardage, but he is smart enough to know to look for the receiver. Once it's too late, he'll go ahead and try to get that 1st down.
3rd down, call it a short 2, and Hostetler again. And Hostetler has the 1st down to the 6. Eugene Robinson put the hit on Hostetler, but not before he's able to get the Raiders into a 1st and goal situation.
I think that was a great call. They were in a kind of a spread offense where linebackers were out of the middle. He just takes a couple of steps back right here, waits for a lane to develop, and then just goes ahead and, gets through it, gets the 1st down. And again, this is a guy with a couple of bad knees, a couple of bad ankles, and he's still trying to run the ball. Gotta love this guy.
We asked him a couple of weeks ago what was hurting him, and he said, well, what's not? 1st and goal for the Raiders. An impressive drive. Nick Bell turning the corner. Flags have been dropped at the 5-yard line as Nick Bell tried to make a surge for the end zone. Eugene Robinson and Patrick Hunter were there. And once again, a penalty pushes the Raiders back.
Well, this is exactly what the Raiders wanted to do. They wanted to go ahead and use the big running back Bell, pound a little bit, and then raise up and throw the ball to complement that running game. And they've moved right down the field, but what happens? A penalty.
Holding offense, number 35, 10-yard penalty, still 1st down.
So the 2nd Raider penalty of the game on Steve Smith, the fullback.
Well, Smith, the fullback, number 35, is trying to get a little hook block. A lot of times the back will try to run up inside there. Smith is trying to hook him, knowing that Bell is trying to get the corner. It was an obvious hole. Good call by the official.
Pushes the ball back to the 16, 1st and goal. Hostetler with plenty of time, and he's got his man, and it's Alexander Wright. And they'll spot him at the 6-yard line, and that will bring up 2nd and goal from there. Eugene Robinson made the stop for Seattle.
Very impressive patience by Hostetler. Not only does it take patience for the quarterback to sit there that long, but a great job by the offensive line holding out a good rushing attack, pass rushing front for the Seahawks. That time, able to wait for somebody to clear. Finally, Wright goes up for the jump ball.
So the big 10-yard gain, and this current drive has already chewed up 7 minutes on the clock. And this is Nick Bell, and he'll lose yards. He's stopped back at the 10-yard line. Antonio Edwards, the rookie out of Valdosta State, the 8th-round draft pick, tackles Bell for a loss.
Well, I was having some fun. I was talking to some of the Seahawks players, and they said that Antonio Edwards has a nickname, Franchise. He's gotten a couple of sacks. He's really opened some eyes. And let me tell you something. I've watched this kid on film, Dan, and I think he's going to be a fine football player for the Seahawks. He's got a real good burst off the ball, and he plays the run better than a lot of rookies that you would think, at this point in the season. Good-looking player.
Almost to the 7-minute mark of the 1st quarter. 3rd and goal for the Raiders. Hostetler. And the pass is complete. And it's Nick Bell out of the backfield, but that will bring up 4th and goal, and that will bring out Jeff Jager to attempt the field goal. Actually, it was Ethan Horton making the reception for Los Angeles, brought down by Michael McCrary. So the Raider drive stalls at the 6-yard line.
Again, the penalties. They had almost an obvious touchdown, but again, penalties. That's been their big problem all year.
Well, you see Jeff Jager, who's on to attempt a 24-yard field goal. He has a chance to set the record of 29 he set a couple of years ago. That field goal from 24 is good, so Jeff Jager is closing in on the record he set a couple of years ago. More importantly, the Raiders have a 3-0 lead. Raiders with a 3-0 lead over the Seattle Seahawks. Jeff Jager with his 28th field goal of the season. That leads the AFC, and he's given the Raiders a 3-0 lead and is closing in on the record he set a couple of years ago. Meanwhile, he sends it Michael Bates's direction, and the speedster has to down it in the end zone, so Seattle will bring it out and begin 1st and 10 from the 20 when we come back. And 87 passing yards that came in the loss to Kansas City and actually outperformed statistically the great Joe Montana, but Rick Meyer has also thrown a bunch of interceptions, 15. And the offensive line up front to protect Meyer, Roberts, Brills, Ray Donaldson, along with Jeff Blackshear, who gets his 2nd NFL start. He's in for the injured Bill Hitchcock, along with Andy Heck. And in the backfield, Chris Warren, the 2nd leading rusher in the AFC. Brian Blaze, the 2nd leading receiver in the AFC. Farrell Evans, the tight end, and the 3 wides. They'll bring in Doug Thomas. 1st and 10, Seattle, and they'll give it to Chris Warren on the ground, and Warren gets a couple about to the 22-yard line. Winston Moss, the leading tackler for the Raiders, along with Joe Kelly, there to meet Chris Warren. And the Raiders, the 3rd-ranked defense in the league, led by the veteran 13-year man, Howie Long, and the rising star, Chester McLaughlin, the 1st-round pick in his 2nd year out of Clemson. Wallace, Kelly, and Moss are the linebackers, and Terry McDaniel leads a Raider defensive secondary. This Raider defense, #1 in the NFL against the pass. Chris Warren stopped for maybe a loss. Aaron Wallace there to meet Warren in the backfield, and he probably lost a yard.
Well, Seattle really wants and needs to be able to run the ball today. Now, they've got a pretty good attack with Chris Warren, a good offensive line, but if they fall into this trap of being in 3rd and long all day against the Raiders, they're going to get beat up pretty quick. The Raiders are 1st in the league against the pass.
We saw Tom Flores, his 2nd trip back to the Coliseum as a head coach of the Seahawks. Never beaten his former team as flags come in from every direction. Derek Brills chooses to toss his back at the referee. Gary Lane took a yellow hanky in the face there.
False start. Offense, number 73. Prior to the snap, 5-yard penalty. Remain 3rd down.
Well, the reason Ray Roberts, the left tackle, number 73, jumps is the reason is Anthony Smith, 94, is the NFL sack leader with 12. I think I'd be on the go button pretty quick, just like Ray Roberts was there.
Seattle backed up and in a huge hole. 3rd down and 15. Meyer from the shotgun, cranking it up down the far sideline, and looking for Kelvin Martin. On the coverage was Lionel Washington, and he may have been flagged, or it could have been against Martin for offensive interference. We'll wait and see.
Well, from our perspective up here in the press box about 3 miles away, it was hard to tell, Dan, but it looks like it was defensive
pass interference. Offense, number 84. Penalties declined. 4th down.
And it was on Kelvin Martin. The Raiders, of course, will decline the penalty, and that'll bring up 4th and long.
Well, here you'll see Martin fighting for the ball, just shoves the corner down and trying to make a play on it. Now, yeah, it's nice to be aggressive trying to get to the ball, but that's a little bit overboard.
So Rick Tootin comes in to punt it away for the first time today. Back at the 40-yard line stands Tim Brown, the all-time punt return leader in Raiders history. Not a real high punt, but it drives Brown back to the 35. And Brown with a 7-yard return, a 50-yard punt by Rick Tootin. First quarter, 4:32 left. Raiders up 3-0. Postetler next to him in the huddle there is Raghib Ismail. We were told that he would be appearing in the backfield for the Raiders this afternoon, and it's a depleted running back attack. Nick Bell starting for the injured Greg Robinson, and Napoleon McCallum underwent an appendectomy a couple of weeks ago. The Raiders thought he might play this week, but he has instead been pushed back for action next week. So the Raiders looking for a spark in the running attack as Raghib Ismail is in the slot on 1st down and 10 for the Raiders from their own 42. And here is Nick Bell. And Nick Bell maybe a gain of a foot.
Well, I think that's going to be the determining factor of how much we might see Rocket.
Let's take our first visit to New York and Jim Lampley.
And you'll take your first visit to Mile High in Denver. We're on the opening possession for the Chiefs in a drive keyed by passes to the tight end. Montana paid it off with that 11-yard flip over the middle to Jonathan Hayes. Made it 7-0 Kansas City over Denver in the first. Back to Dan and Dan.
And there is Raghib Ismail, the Rocket, in his first appearance in the backfield for Los Angeles. Steve Smith.
Look how he's bent over so the defense can't see his numbers.
Steve Smith just ahead of him there and really wanted to hide out back there.
Yeah.
But with a stoppage of play there, Rocket trying to hide behind Steve Smith.
So he's bent over so they can't see the numbers. I love it.
Only 3 carries for 3 yards all season. -3, that is, for the Rocket. And a pitch to Raghib. And he finds out in a hurry what it's like to be hit as a running back. Robert Blackman put a hit on him.
Well, I think that play had a good chance of doing something unless Antonio Edwards, number 67, the Seahawk defensive end, gets upfield and has to waste the fullback who was supposed to get the safety.
Holding call against Los Angeles.
We'll see here. Number 35, Smith right there. 67 was upfield so fast that he had to help on him. No one was there to pick up Wooden, the linebacker.
Third holding penalty of the day on Los Angeles. This coming on the right tackle, Bruce Wilkerson. And the Seahawks have declined with the Rocket unable to turn the corner. So that'll bring up 3rd down and 9. And you see that the Raiders have been flagged the most in the NFL, 116 times. And more flags on the play. Hostetler avoids what could have been a sack and runs it out to the 35-yard line for what would appear to be a huge loss, but we'll check on the flags.
Well, there's a good chance that if there's a yellow flag down, it's going to be called against the Raiders the way their season has been. The most penalized team in the NFL again.
Encroachment and holding against Seattle.
Well, that's a shocker. I think you can see by his expression he was shocked. Tom Flores, the head coach of the Seahawks.
Interesting how Tom Flores coached Art Shell.
Defense, offside, penalties decline. Defensive holding, number 20 is accepted, 5-yard penalty, 1st down.
It'll be on James Jefferson, a cornerback, and that's one of the problems that you have as a defense matching up with speed. You can either back up off of them, give them room, and try to break on it, or you can get up there and try to beat on them and hold them at the line. That time Jefferson caught for holding.
And Raghib Ismail coming out of the backfield in motion to the near side. And a Hostetler looking for the Rocket, and he's out of bounds. As Hostetler looked to hook up with a Rocket down around the 15-yard line, and Ismail covered by the left cornerback for Seattle, Dwayne Harper.
Well, you know, you're going to have to think that Ismail in the backfield, it was something they tried once. I think they need to go back to that, and he's a great receiver here. We'll see him just going in motion, running like a streak pattern, and makes a great adjustment. Unfortunately, the ball was 5 yards out of bounds, but I think line him up in the backfield, give him the ball 5 or 6 times. If nothing happens, then go away from it, but not just once. I think this kid needs the ball in his hands to make something happen.
Rocket takes a breather on the sideline, and the Raiders from the 47, 2nd down and 10. They lead it 3-0 as we approach the 3-minute mark of the first quarter. Hostetler has Brown over the middle, and Brown has a 1st down. He's into Seahawk territory at the 40, a gain of 13 for Tim Brown, the former Heisman Trophy winner out of Notre Dame.
Well, Tim Brown has always been a very good receiver, but I think he's made a step this year, Dan, and he's become a great player and again, a leader. He has become Hostetler's go-to guy, and Haas told us yesterday, I love to get the ball to a receiver that works as hard to get it as Tim Brown does.
And he has the respect of Art Shell. It was Tim Brown who suggested plays late in the game last week in Rich Stadium, and Art Shell went with him. And they turned out to be big plays and crucial plays, which amounted to a Raider win last week. Hostetler to the air, and this time it is the Rocket who can't hang on. 2nd down and 10.
Well, I said he's got to have the ball in his hands to make something happen there. He drops it. Again, the Raiders are going to the air almost exclusively now. Bell had some carries early, did some good things. Now it looks like they're just trying to get this yardage back throwing the ball. Ishmael should have had that one. No excuse.
There's the Rocket after the 2 CFL seasons, just 24 years old. The former 4th-round draft pick back in '90 out of Notre Dame. 2nd down and 10. Brown in motion to the near side, and the misdirection back to Brown, and he is tackled and fumbles the football, and the Seahawks will recover. Patrick Hunter jumps on the football, and the fumble by Tim Brown, and Seattle is in business.
Just a simple inside counter reverse there, trying to get the ball into one of the wide receivers' hands there. That time it was Brown coming off the flank. A swarming Seattle defense is the reason they have it. I tell you what, not one guy was waiting for him back there, but 2.
Terry Wooden stripped the ball loose of Tim Brown. Kevin Murphy was also back there. And now the ball just across midfield, and a good opportunity for Seattle. In excellent field position. The swing out to Chris Warren. And Warren is running out of bounds on the far side. Joe Kelly, the middle linebacker for Los Angeles, ran Chris Warren out of bounds. And Chris Warren comes into this ball game with 831 yards and just that far away from his 2nd straight 1,000-yard season.
If a lot of the folks around the country that watch pro football said, well, who is a 1,000-yard rusher? A lot of folks wouldn't know about Chris Warren, but he really has quietly been a very, very fine running back for the Seahawks this year.
His 13th reception of the season, just good for a 1-yard gain, and this time he's on the ground and weaving his way all the way down inside the 35-yard line. Chris Warren brought down finally by Anthony Smith, but not after a 13-yard gain.
An excellent
1st and 10, ball at the 35. And here's Warren again, and this time he'll be stopped at the line of scrimmage. Chester McLaughlin. And we have heard the praises heaped on Chester McLaughlin from Coach Art Shell, especially the past few weeks, Dan. And Art Shell says, Chester, you've brought your game up to another level. It's time to really sustain it during the key stretch of the season down in our final games.
Well, you know, he's starting to bring all that stuff up another level. That's about 325 pounds of fun. And I saw him play a couple weeks ago. I was amazed at the kind of ability he showed in the first half.
They call him the Big Cat. 2nd down and 10 for Seattle. Meyer to the air, and he's got Farrell Edmonds, the tight end, and Edmonds knocked out of bounds at the 4-yard line. Derek Hoskins ran him out of bounds, but a 32-yard gain for Farrell Edmonds, the former 2-time Pro Bowler out of Miami.
Boy, that's like finding a shiny new dime in one of your shoes. I mean, here's a guy that really doesn't get the ball thrown to him much, then boom, everybody quits covering him. That time Farrell just kind of sneaks out. Nobody was on him. Anderson's trying to get over there. They get some downfield blocking, and he rambles it almost down inside the 3-yard line.
Well, that would have had Farrell been able to get paid. That would have been his first touchdown in a Seattle uniform. 1st and goal now for the Seahawks. Warren gets the call. A flag has been thrown as Warren muscled his way just inside the 2-yard line. And once again, we'll hear from Gary Lane.
Well,
and the encroachment penalty against the Raiders.
Well, you had it right. Eddie Anderson met Warren there inside about the 3-yard line, and he went straight down. Anderson, one of the better.
Side defense, half the distance to the goal line, still 1st down.
So they got about 100
into the 1st quarter.
About 100 yards to walk to the other side of that field down in the Coliseum. Seattle knocking on the door. They trail it 3-0. To begin the 2nd quarter, the Raiders with a 24-yard field goal from Jeff Jager, accounting for the only scoring in the 1st quarter. Total yards, the Raiders with a big advantage also in possession time. But now they have the ball at the 1-yard line thanks to the Tim Brown fumble. Chris Warren looking for the end zone. and he is out of bounds at the 1-yard line. Eddie Anderson ran Chris Warren out of bounds. 2nd and goal for Seattle. Race standings. Buffalo beat Philadelphia 10-7, and Houston survived Cleveland 19-17. This is Chris Warren in the end zone for the touchdown. So Seattle takes advantage of the Raider turnover and turns it into 6 points, and they take the lead for now 6-3.
Well, like we said in the open, if the Raiders play like last week, then they should easily handle the Seahawks. But they're not. They've made a couple of penalties. They've had some mistakes. Now, boom, guess what? Seahawks are up 7-3.
The 6th touchdown of the season for Chris Warren on the 1-yard touchdown run. And now John Casey, the left-footed kicker out of Georgia, trying to tack on the extra point. Tootin with a hold, and the point after is good. So the Seattle Seahawks, 14:46 left in the first half, up 7-3. The Seattle Seahawks with a 7-3 lead over the Los Angeles Raiders, and able to take advantage of the turnover by the Raiders. Tim Brown with a fumble, and thus the scoring drive only taking 2 minutes and 20 seconds. The big pass play to Farrell Edmonds set up the Chris Warren 1-yard run for the touchdown. John Casey kicking off, and back deep for the Raiders. This is the Rocket. And Raghib Ismail maybe got to the 20-yard line before he stopped. That's where the Raiders will begin. And now let's take a look at the natural gas quarterback efficiency ratings. Joe Montana leads the city today, as you see Jeff Hostetler down the list at 8th, and Rick Meyer for Seattle 10th. First and 10 for Los Angeles from the 20. 14:37 left in the first half. This is Tim Brown, motion to the far side. Flag on the play as Hostetler showed play action.
Looks like another false start on one of the offensive linemen.
Let's go, you guys! False start before the snap. Offense, number 56, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
56.
Probably means 76 Wisniewski. The left guard will look and see if he pops up a little bit early. Right there at the left side.
Actually, it could be Max Montoya, the right guard, the former Bengal and 15-year veteran. The yards already piling up penalty-wise for the Raiders, already 4 times. Hostetler to the air, in and out of the hands of Alexander Wright. It almost picked off by Patrick Hunter.
Patrick Hunter's kind of looking at the ground saying, why didn't I catch that thing? He's got 3 interceptions, and he's become a very good cornerback. He gets a good rush out of the other guys. But I tell you what, Seattle, in what they do, and they don't do an awful lot. They do some different things defensively, but whatever they do very well, and a lot of it starts with great coverage. Robinson, Hunter, Harper, and Blackman do a great job back there helping that defense become more and more effective.
So more flags as a Seahawk appeared to have jumped across the line of scrimmage. Hostetler's pass complete to Nick Bell out to the 25-yard line, but on 2nd down and 15, maybe the Raiders will get one back off a Seahawk penalty. Gary Lane earning his money today.
I'm telling you.
This guy is...
They didn't know who to call it on.
Offside defense, number 77, 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
So the Raiders do get a penalty as Jeff Bryant jumped off sides right there.
But again, these penalties, not only are they, they go on the books and look bad on paper, but they distract you from what you're trying to do. And, when you get in 1st and 10, you want to run the ball, want to do some things. Well, all of a sudden it's 1st and 15, and they kind of take you out of sync. And I know that, the Raiders, they don't go into a game saying, hey, we're going to mess up and get some penalties, but invariably it seems like that happens every week.
So back to 2nd down and 10 for Los Angeles. Hostetler trying to get rid of it, but he'll take the sack as Cortez Kennedy picks up his 4.5 sack of the season for the Tez.
Hostetler looked like he had stepped in something and tripped. I didn't even see Cortez way at the bottom of the pile. He had come around on a little bit of a loop inside and got his 4th sack of the year. There's the 4.5.
I think Cortez had Hosteller, who is very strong, very physical quarterback, and does get out of the grasp of many defensive linemen in the NFL, but Tez had him tethered on that one.
Exactly. And this guy, for 4.5 sacks, he's worked harder than anybody in the league to get him, believe me.
3rd down and 16. Another flag. Hostetler, another sack. And this time, catching up to Jeff Hostetler is Tyrone Rogers. But we'll see what Gary Lane has to say about it. Can't remember a game all season with this many penalties.
Offsides, defense, number 67 in the neutral zone. 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
There's the rookie Antonio Edwards.
It's almost like Seattle said, hey, you're not going to lead us in penalties. We'll show you we can get penalties too. It's unbelievable. I don't know if they're playing down the form or the Raiders are just bringing the Seahawk game up a level.
That is the 3rd offside penalty on Seattle. It was 2nd down 15. Then it was 2nd down and 10. Now it's 3rd down and 11. Hostetler looking for the rocket. And he's able to make the reception, and he'll be shy of the 1st down. The ball spotted at the 29. So that'll bring up 4th down.
Well, Hostetler was able to get it off despite a great rush by 96 right there in the middle of your screen. You see him just club Mosbar, the center, down. Cortez Kennedy right in his face. Hostetler almost converted that. We'll see Ishmael working hard, trying to get the ball. Got to get a little bit deeper. Ishmael.
Jeff Gossett punting at his 15, and Kelvin Martin comes up, makes the reception at the 24. And he'll get no more than a couple of yards. 48-yard punt by Gossett, just a 3-yard return back to the Coliseum after these matches. At the Raider band. Dan, I know that you probably had some similar characters at Soldier Field, but I don't think the Bears had a band that could match the wardrobes of those fine young gentlemen.
Well, they all look like they had better haircuts than some of the guys I played with, I can tell you that.
All right, Seattle 1st down and 10 from the 25. Look at the possession. The Raiders 15.5 minutes. Seattle just a little over 4. But Seattle is up 7-3. They've taken advantage of the Raider turnover as Chris Warren gets the call. And next Saturday, we'll remind you that it's a special take on Jim Harbaugh and those surprising Bears. Coverage begins with NFL Live at noon, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on NBC. Gain of 1 for Warren. He'll get the pitch again. And this time, Warren gets close to the 1st down marker, actually passes it all the way up to the 39-yard line. Gain of 13 for Chris Warren. And that's what Tom Flores told him. And 10 for Seattle from the 40. And it's given back. This is Brian Blades. And Brian Blades across the 45. Another flag has been thrown at about midfield as Brian Blades came around on the reverse. Lionel Washington made the stop on Blades. That is just Brian's 2nd rush of the season. Just under 11 minutes left in the 1st half. The Raiders on top. Actually, Seattle on top, 7-3.
Interesting to know, last week
There was no crackback as he was outside of the blocks.
going to that last play, Meyer does a great job play faking.
Just 97 yards to tie for 3rd on the NFL rookie quarterback passing list. He is on the verge of an NFL record. He rolls this time out to his right, chased by a couple of Raiders, and is able to get rid of it. But Anthony Smith, the leading sack man in the NFL, nearly picked up his 13th sack, but Anthony has not had a sack in more than a month. It's been 5 weeks.
Well, Howie Long was coming up the middle and flushing there. Smith just tracking him down. And again, a year ago, well, he got a little shot to the head, did he? Mr. Smith not in a good mood, not getting the sack.
Maybe it's that Chinese diet of herbs and dried lizard heads.
That or the new rule allowing the quarterback to throw the ball away.
Strange diet, but it seems to work. 3rd down and 3 now. Meyer flushed out of the pocket. He'll pick up the first down and more. Meyer inside the 35 down to the 34. We mentioned that Jeff Hostetler can run, but what about Rick Meyer? He's the leading rusher in the AFC. 10 from the Raider 35. And Warren. He's inside the 30-yard line. And they'll spot him at about the 27, so a gain of 8 for Chris Warren, who is racking up some yards.
Well, this is exactly what Seattle wants to do. Now, the
yardage needed to get just inside the 25, so it'll depend on where they spot it, whether Seattle picks up the first down. Chester McLaughlin was there to meet Warren. The big cat, Chester.
There in the middle, you'll see Ray Donaldson, the center, get a good crackback block. They pull the left guard, lead up inside, and go ahead and get the first down. But the Raiders, for being so effective rushing the passer, they are a good run-stopping defense. But Seattle is matching up pretty well. They're creating some seams and just, getting some good yards every time they hand the ball off to Warren.
Warren indeed picks up the first down. Ball at the 25. Meyer to throw on first down. Got some pressure from Smith and was able to get rid of it. Pretty much just threw it away over the head of Brian Blades, but Lionel Washington was on the coverage of Brian Blades, but once again Rick Meyer was feeling the pressure.
Well, 94 Anthony Smith lines up on the right side of the screen here. You'll see him turning the corner on Andy Heck, the right tackle, right at the end, forcing the high throw. Now, again, one reason the defense is ranked #1 is they've got good cover men back there, but they get great pressure by that front four. And Smith, Howie Long, McLaughlin, all those guys can get after you if you're in 3rd and long.
Well, 10 of his 35.5 sacks for Anthony Smith against Seattle. In fact, he's had 8 in the last 3 games. Rick Meyer avoids another sack there, able to get it out inside the 20. Rick Meyer with a fine piece of running, avoided the sack and the sure loss and was able to make a gain out of it.
Unbelievable. Meyer was trapped in the backfield, and I think it was McLaughlin that hit him. He just kind of like blind staggers and not only gets back to the line of scrimmage, makes a few yards. I tell you, this kid, I'm not kidding, it reminds me more and more and more of a big husky Joe Montana. He makes a lot of good things happen. He just needs a few more people around him. He'll really be good.
Meyer swings it out to John L. Williams. John L. Williams for first down yardage, and that'll bring up 1st and goal for Seattle, and that is the catch for John L. Williams. He now has the new team record for 6 straight 50-plus catch seasons. That is a club record now for John L. Williams and the new Seahawks record.
Well, again, Seattle doing an awful lot of good things just to keep the chains moving here. Finds John L. John L. turns a corner, and John, he does it. He used to be a guy that you would expect to get 1,000 yards every year. Now he's become more of a pass-catching specialist, and he's very, very effective. There you saw him going out and getting the first down. But again, Seattle doing everything they want to keep the Raiders at bay.
Raiders were called for a penalty, but the penalty is declined. That sets up 1st and goal for the Seahawks. Ball at the 7-yard line. They lead at 7-3 and trying to add to it. Chris Warren fighting to get inside the 5-yard line.
Brought down by Winston Moss.
Chester McLaughlin brought down Warren. And the stories that Howie Long tells about Chester McLaughlin are extremely entertaining. This is a guy that weighed 370 pounds in his career at Clemson. Howie says that he talked Chester into getting an exercise cycle, so he went into his apartment and all Chester had in there was a TV, a bed, and a cycle in his apartment.
I bet you could find a refrigerator in there too. You don't get that big by being hungry.
2nd down and goal for Seattle. Warren with another chance, weaving his way. Another flag is down. Warren got inside the 5. And we may be on record pace for penalties in this one. Gary Lane again.
Yeah, they're going to have to get new handkerchiefs at the half. They have those wore out.
Will be grass-stained green from the Coliseum turf.
But again, Seattle hasn't had any problems going ahead and doing what they want to do. The Raiders have got to do something to take them out of that conservative game plan. And, you know,
Holding offense, number 82, 10-yard penalty, second down.
10 yards, Farrell Edmonds.
Tom Floyd is 0-3 against his former team, and I guess a lot of the Raiders, you know, thought, you know, the fourth loss was going to be easy to hand to him, but so far, Seattle doing exactly what they want, and the Raiders are letting them do it.
So that pushes the ball back to the 15-yard line, 2nd and goal. And this is John L. Williams, the first carry of the game for John L. That'll bring up 3rd down and a goal. They had to get 15 yards, Dan.
Hey, we'll just get a field goal and go about our business. We've had a good drive. We run the clock down. We'll just take what we can get.
3rd and goal from the 12. 13th play of the drive. Meyer just takes off, smells the end zone, gets close to the goal line, and that'll bring up 4th down and goal with about a foot to go. Rick Meyer with another impressive scramble. That looked like the design on that play.
Well, we'll get the blimp ISO here. Watch this. It was a quarterback draw. And again, he does a great job of just avoiding Anderson, the safety, who was accountable for him. And that he could have made a touchdown if he hadn't expected to fall. It looks like he was just trying to get down. They're going for it.
36 yards rushing for Meyer, out rushing the entire Raider team. He's got 3 carries, and now a critical 4th and goal. The Seahawks trying to get the 2nd touchdown of the game. Play action. Meyer looking to his right and unable to connect. It was intended for Farrell Edmonds, so the Seahawks come away with nothing. They still lead it, though, 7-3. A disgusted
Meyer here running a bootleg. They're trying to get the ball to Farrell Edmonds on an out pattern here. Gets a little bit of pressure, but as Meyer told us yesterday, watching Montana last week, Joe Montana never makes mistakes. He wishes he had that one again, Dan.
Meyer overshot him. The Seattle defense looking for the safety, and they get it. That is the 4th safety of the season for Seattle. Jeff Hostetler doesn't agree with the call, as Nick Bell was dropped in the end zone for the safety. So they didn't get the 6 they wanted, but they got a couple there, and now have a 9-3. And indeed, the 4 safeties this season ties the NFL record for Seattle. And now the free kick from the 20. Gossett will hang it up high. Kelvin Martin is back deep for the Seahawks. Gossett's punt on the far side picked up by Martin at the 27, and he's run out of bounds at about the 38.
But going back to the safety call, Seattle does an awful lot of things. They bring Blackman up. They put him at the line of scrimmage. It was an 8-man front. 2 guys hit Bell. Now, one guy made a great play and got off the blocks, but when 2 hit you, the defense was in a position to overload. You may have wanted to try to audible throw the ball a little bit there.
20 seconds left in the first half. Ball close to the 40-yard line, just across the 39 for Seattle. And Myers swings it up, thrown just a little bit high for Chris Warren, incomplete. A flag has been thrown.
Well, Big Chester was romping and stomping into the backfield, probably a holding call against the lineman blocking him.
Romping and stomping, I guess that's what you do when you're Chester's size. 6'4".
You try not to get in his way, believe me.
Okay, Gary, what do you have?
Tripping, offense, number 69, penalties declined, 2nd down.
Jeff Blackshear, the rookie, who is getting his 2nd NFL start in for the injured Bill Hitchcock. The rookie, the 8th round draft pick out of Northeast Louisiana.
Well, Blackshear is about 320, extremely strong. Number 69 there. He gets bull rushed by Chester. You see him trying to kick his legs out from under, trying to slow him down.
So the 10-yard penalty on Blackshear, the strongest player on this Seattle Seahawks team, bench presses 515 pounds.
And that's with about a 40-inch inseam. That's an amazing amount of weight to press when you're that big and heavy. that long arm.
We sensed the power in the room when he came in. We had a chance to talk with Blackshear last night. This is Chris Warren reversing his field. And gets it back up across the 35-yard line on 2nd down and 20. So it'll be 3rd down and long for Seattle. Under the 4-minute mark now. The Seahawks with a 9-3 lead.
Watch 93 right there in the middle of your screen. That's Townsend. He does a great job getting upfield, pushing the right tackle head into the backfield. Warren just has nothing else to do but try to divert, try to get something back to the line of scrimmage and loses for it.
2nd down and 14. Meyer with a deep drop. And he has the 6th-year man out of Miami, Brian Blades. And Brian Blades is short of the 1st down, but Brian Blades is having a fine season. He's already has 2 1,000-yard seasons to his credit in his 6-year career, and seems to be on pace as he came into this game with 738 yards to top the 1,000-yard mark again.
Well, I think he's become one of the really good wide receivers in the AFC, and just like Brown is Hostetler's go-to guy, that Blades has become that for Rick Meyer. 3rd
down and 6. Blades, by the way, had 7 catches for 134 yards last week, and this one in and out of the hands of Doug Thomas. And that would have been Thomas's only 9th reception on the season, and this is really considered a do-or-die year for Doug Thomas.
Well, if it's based on this play here, it might be a die season, because here you saw his head looking at the cornerback, not looking at the ball, and those are the kind of things that keep you from being in the playoffs. Guys make enough plays like that, it'll sure show up at the end result.
Rick Tootin's punt taken by Tim Brown at the 14. And Brown has run out of bounds close to the 30-yard line. 16-yard return for Brown. 43-yard punt by Tootin. Nebraska and Florida State, #1 against #2, the national championship. 1st and 10 for the Raiders. Hostetler cranks it up. He was looking for Tim Brown, and on the coverage was Dwayne Harper on the far side, and Harper is down. And look at the Raider rushing attack. They're without the rookie Greg Robinson, and hope for bigger and better things from Nick Bell today. Just 10 yards as a team. And Hostetler on 2nd and down will go to the air. And he's got Tim Brown. Brown close to 1st down yardage. Needed to get across the 38 to pick it up. And Brown involved in a scuffle there with some Seahawks. But he quickly emerges from the scuffle unscathed.
Well, it looked like the cornerback James Jefferson wanted to look at the picture he carries of the Heisman Trophy he won a few years back. Tim Brown, again, it's almost like the Raiders have said, hey, we know we can't run the ball. We're just going to throw a bunch of little dink patterns and let our very talented wide receivers make some yards for us underneath. That time, Brown catching it, a little crosser, and almost getting to the 1st down marker.
Well, we did see Nick Bell for some number of carries early in the game, but we have not seen him yet. We saw Raghib Ismail with his 4th carry of the season earlier in the game. And the Raiders really have gone to the short, high percentage passes.
Well, and it's almost kind of a shame, because, you know, you got a guy that's in Kansas City. We're playing in Denver today, Marcus Allen, who...
Please reset the game clock to 2:06. 2:06.
You know, you got to think he sure would be handy to have right now. And, you know, the guys that they've counted on haven't come through. Nick Bell, first.
James Jet, Tim Brown, and the Rocket. And we have reached the 2-minute warning in Los Angeles. The Raiders trail the Seahawks 9-3. And Dan Hampton watching the Raiders trail Seattle 9-3. We're at the 2-minute warning. And if I'm Art Shell, I'm on the sidelines, Dan. I am worried about the rushing attack. There was no doubt that he was worried going in without Greg Robinson, but with Seattle up 9-3, it is not the situation that he wanted to be in at this point.
Well, again, you know, they've got the talent to throw the ball, but if you throw it every time, a lot of bad things could happen to you.
This is Haas looking for the 1st down on 3rd and about a foot, and he'll pick it up.
But Robinson had given them a very stable, balanced kind of guy that could run the ball. And when he got hurt, they have really gone into desperate times.
So the Raiders in the hurry up, ball just across their own 40-yard line. The clock continuing to run, 1:37 left in the half. Hostetler in the air, and he's got the rocket. And the rocket very close to a first down, needed to just get across midfield, and I believe he picked it up. And he did. 1st and 10, Raiders back at the line of scrimmage in the hurry up, 1:20 left in the first half. Hostetler pumps once, pumps twice, looks downfield, and the rocket has it. Raghib Ismail down to the 11. Raiders with a timeout. We'll be back. 9-3, but the Raiders with a chance to score here before the second quarter concludes. Coming up at halftime, the NFL Live halftime report, the Domino's Pizza NFL Live halftime report. Mike Ditka along with Joe Gibbs and Jim Lampley bringing you up to date on a wild day in the NFL. We already know that Buffalo survived Philadelphia 10-7. Houston came back to beat Cleveland 19-17, and Tampa Bay, that was a surprise. They beat Chicago today 13-10. Stay tuned for that. 1st down and 10 for the Raiders. Hostetler going to Ethan Horton for a pretty good pickup. Horton, the tight end, brought down just at about the 5-yard line. Robert Blackman put the hit on him, so the Raiders with a chance for a big score here. The big 38-yard pass play from Hostetler to the Rocket as the Raiders knocking on the door. Hostetler with room to run. Touchdown. And that is Jeff Hostetler down after taking the ball in from 4 yards out for the touchdown. He's up and about. And the Raiders have tied it up at 9-all. The point after pending from Jeff Jager. And that is the 4th rushing touchdown for Jeff Hostetler on the season.
Let me tell you something. This guy is true grit. Forget John Wayne. They could refilm this and have Hostetler do it. This guy has showed so much courage this year. Here, back in the pocket. The play before here, you see him go back, does a good job of just looking at the receiver, seeing what he has, takes Horton. But on that last play, he scrambles out of a collapsed pocket and makes it into the end zone for the touch.
And Jeff Jager gives the Raiders the lead. And it comes with 32 seconds left in the first half on the 4-yard scramble by Jeff Hostetler. And the Raiders, in the thick of the wild card picture in the AFC, cannot afford another loss down the stretch.
You know, you talk with Art Shell, and he says, you know, I've challenged this team. You know, this team will drive you crazy, but I know one thing. That looking at this team, that this team will go as far as Jeff Hostetler can carry them, because this guy has put them on his back and has started making his way down the road with them. Here's the long pass here, Dan, where Ismail makes a great adjustment. The ball was underthrown a little bit. Jefferson never sees it, but Ismail makes a great adjustment. Early in the game, they threw him the ball down the sidelines. He makes a great adjustment on that, catches it out of bounds, but that shows you what that Ismail can do when he gets the ball. But of course, Hostetler is the reason they've got that touchdown. This guy has just done everything that Art Shell and the coaches thought he could do when they picked him up.
He laughed about it last night. He says, hey, that's with a bum ankle and 2 bad knees. As Michael Bates watches the kick from Jager sail over his head into the end zone. So the Seahawks will have the 32 seconds left to... I don't think they'll maybe try for anything too chancy. They're trailing just 10-9, but able to beat his old team, 0-3 against them, trailing here 10-9. And indeed, Rick Meyer will take a knee, and that will finish out the first half.
Well, he got a great first half from his defense. They put him in position a number of times. Rick Meyer not being able to complete the pass and the touchdown on 4th down may come back to haunt them. They could be leading this game, but instead, now, of course, they're down.
Well, it hasn't been pretty for Art Shell and the Raiders. Really, virtually no rushing attack, but he'll go into the locker room with a 10-9 lead thanks to the 4-yard scramble from Jeff Hostetler. Tom Flores will go in and try to regroup the Seahawks, and we will return after these messages.
Offenses haven't done an awful lot, but again, Dan, it's two quarterbacks fighting it out. They're doing what they have to do to put their teams in position to score.
Well, the total yards advantaged by the Raiders, but the one turnover costly. Seattle able to take advantage of that and get the 1-yard touchdown run by Chris Warren. But what worries Art Shell and the Raiders right now is the lack of a rushing game. Nick Bell with just 9 yards at halftime, and as a team the Raiders have 10 yards rushing in the first half. Hostetler, to his credit, has 4 carries for what? 18 yards.
Exactly, and what that says is, hey, the quarterbacks are carrying the load. The other guys on the team that show up first will probably be the winning team.
Jeff Jager to kick off. Back deep for the Seahawks is Michael Bates, and Bates will take a knee. And the Seahawks will operate 1st and 10 from the 20-yard line. The Raiders in the thick of a wild card playoff chase, which seems to get wilder by the weekend. Than Kansas City will be the division champion. And when trailing at halftime, Seattle 0-7. And they trail it here 10-9, trying to break that trend. And Rick Meyer trying to get away from Howie Long, who is providing the pressure from the left side. 2nd down and 10.
Well, Howie Long's been a guy that has always made an awful lot of things happen for other players. And on that play, he was lined up inside. They're using him an awful lot more inside. You'll see him right over the right guard, Blackshear. He just does a bull rush, gets his arm under, and then flushes Meyer out of the pocket. Now, again, this will go down as, you know, a non-stat, but of course, Howie Long was a big reason why that play didn't work for the Seattle offense.
7-time Pro Bowler Howie Long. And the pitch from Meyer to Chris Warren, looking to get across the 20, fumbles the football. I believe Seattle recovered it, but Warren fumbled the football as he turned the corner, and was lucky that Andy Heck, the right tackle, recovered it for Seattle.
You know, Andy Heck had pulled on that play, was out in front leading him, blocking on Wallace. After Warren fumbles the ball, he happens to be Johnny on the spot, able to get it back.
Aaron Wallace stripped it, but Andy Heck able to recover for the Seahawks. And it's 3rd down and 10. Meyer in trouble again. Howie Long drags him down at about the 21.
Tackled Meyer with one arm, and it was kind of a halfway tackle and halfway strip move by Long. You saw it, he finally got his jersey too.
13 years out of Villanova.
We're seeing working on the rookie guard. Blackshear here, he gets a bull rush, sees Meyer scrambling, gets back and closes the gate on him. That's what one of the greats look like when they're playing patrolman for the defensive line.
We mentioned the 7 Pro Bowls for Howie Long. He and Ray Guy have made 7 Pro Bowls. Art Shell heads the list, the coach of the Raiders, with 8. As Rick Tootin punts away, this is Tim Brown from about the 27. Has some room up the middle across midfield, and he might go all the way. One man to beat, it's Dave McCluen. Touchdown, Tim Brown. We mentioned the Raiders' lack of a rushing game. A punt return of 74 yards will do wonders for that in a hurry.
I said the quarterback that gets someone to show up and help him the first will probably win this game. Well, I may have forgotten about one guy. That's Tim Brown. Now, you know, Dan, look, we know he's a great return guy, but, you know, they get some good blocking, but mainly he attacks the hole. He won't let the tackler square up on him. He just ran by everybody.
That is Dave McCluen, who seemed to have the angle on Tim Brown as a Seahawk comes across the line of scrimmage, and the flag comes in, but it did look like Dave McCluen had a shot at Tim Brown.
You know, he had the knee problem a number of years back, and a lot of people said he's really lost a step. That time it didn't look like it.
Defense, 5-yard penalty will be assessed on the kickoff.
So the Raiders will kick off from the 40-yard line, and still this is Jeff Jager.
Well, Art Shell challenged some of his leaders to go ahead and lead this team into the playoffs in this shortened 5-game season. But Tim Brown has answered the bell.
And Jeff Jager has tacked on the extra point. Quickly, 74-yard punt return for Tim Brown has put the Raiders in control. Punt return, which has given the Raiders a 17-9 lead at the 13-15 mark of the third quarter. Jeff Jager kicking off from the 40 after the penalty was assessed on this kickoff, and Michael Bates will watch this pop over the end zone, so the Seahawks will begin again 1st and 10 from the 20. The second punt return for a touchdown in Tim Brown's career.
We said earlier that how the great ones attack the coverage. That is exactly what it is. It reminds me so much of a return Deion Sanders had a couple of years ago that went for about 90 yards. I mean, the great ones attack it and make it work.
And the great ones come up with the big plays at the right time. It was Tim Brown with all those clutch catches last week in Buffalo, and comes up with a huge punt return there for the touchdown. Raiders up 17-9. Seattle. Rick Meyer back to pass on 1st down, and he has Brian Blades for the 1st down. Blades up to about the 33-yard line. Terry McDaniel, the left cornerback for the Raiders, made the stop, but not before a gain of 12 for Blades.
Well, this is a very important drive.
And Meyer will hand it off to Warren, and Warren picks up some pretty good yards inside, just across the 35-yard line for Chris Warren, who has been handling much of the running duties as usual for Seattle today. And Howie Long, the 13-year veteran, and talked about his relationship with Chester McLaughlin, the left tackle, the rising star. Howie Long has pretty much adopted Chester McLaughlin and showing him the way as Howie Long's career runs down in the final few years, as Warren is stopped at the 35. That'll bring up 3rd down and long for Seattle.
He may adopt him. I don't think he wants to feed him, though. I mean, it'd be a pretty expensive food bill. But again, the Raiders' front wall is very, very formidable, rushing the passer and against the run. They need to get a good push by their big offensive line. There, Warren having to bounce it out. The Raiders were able to get outside and get him. Now, again, the best way to do that is go ahead and hit those seam patterns inside, and then get those open, the rushing lanes opened up, and try to keep Warren involved in this offense.
From the 35, 3rd down and 8. Meyer to the shotgun. Steps up, pass in and out of the hands, intended for Blades. Incomplete, 4th down. Here comes the punting unit for Seattle.
Blades feels like he should have caught that one, but again, the sun was directly in his eyes. Sun coming in from the left here.
And a nice round of applause for Tim Brown, who has come back out onto the field, fresh off his 74-yard punt return just a few moments ago for the touchdown. Brown walking up, setting down at about the 22. And Rick Tootin's punt, driving Brown back to the 13. And this time, Brown will get no more than 9 yards as an excellent punt by Rick Tootin. 53 yards, but the Raiders have the lead by 8. And right now out at Mile High Stadium in the 3rd quarter, Denver has retaken the lead 17-14 there. The Raiders here at the Coliseum, 17-9 leaders over Seattle. 10:59 left in the 3rd. Raiders with a 1st and 10, ball just across the 20. And Hostetler to the air. And waits patiently and finds Nick Bell out of the backfield. And Bell, the second effort there, being dragged down by Terry Wooden, might have picked up the 1st down. Very close.
The more I watch Jeff Hostetler, quarterback, the more I'm impressed with his patience. You know, a lot of quarterbacks will make a bad decision after about 4 seconds. Here, the clock's going, finally he makes the right pick, and that's very hard to do. It's easy to look at, but it's hard to do.
Hostetler threw just 12 interceptions in 632 attempts in his career with the Giants. He will not throw the interception as Nick Bell gets the carry. And that truly, Dan, is the sign of a quarterback who has come of age and is truly confident in the job he does in the NFL at the quarterback position. Because you look at Rick Meyer and he talks about, well, I did 2 bad things last game. Well, 2 bad things or 2 interceptions and sometimes can mean the difference.
Exactly. So much of this game is not what you do, it's what you don't do. And the mistakes are the ones that kill you. You look at the Raiders, here's a team that really should have a better record.
So 2nd down and 6 for Hostetler and the Raiders at the 35. Nothing downfield, so Hostetler swings it out, and this is the rookie Randy Jordan. And that is Randy Jordan's first reception of the season. The free agent rookie out of North Carolina.
Watching him in practice yesterday, I was impressed with his footwork. He got very, very quick feet. Here, Hostetler may have led him a little bit, but Jordan was able to go ahead and accelerate forward and make this catch. And, of course, dodge a couple of guys. That always comes in handy.
Well, not only is Greg Robinson out of the lineup for the Raiders, Steve Smith, the starting fullback, has been bothered by an ankle injury, so the youngster out of North Carolina, Randy Jordan, has a chance to fill in for Steve Smith, who is now on the sidelines, and try and somehow rejuvenate the Raider running game. And I imagine the short passes and the flats will also be Jeff Hostetler's game plan this 2nd half.
Well, I still think we're going to see more of Rocket in the backfield, because late in the game when you get everybody wore down, that's when the little quick guys can turn that corner most effectively.
3rd and a long 1. This is Nick Bell. 1st down yardage and more. Bounces off a couple of Seahawk tacklers and gets into Seahawk territory across the 50 for the 1st down. So Nick Bell with just 9 first-half rushing yards, able to pick up some good yards on that play and also pick up the 1st down for the Raiders. 11-yard gain for Nick Bell.
Well, that's the thing that they drafted him to do, is run over people, hit holes hard, and get some good yardage. And, you know, that's what Marcus Allen gave him for so many years, as a guy that, you know, in his own quiet way, you almost grew so used to him, you know, you don't know what to do without him now. Well, that's what Nick Bell has to give this offense, somebody that can get that every time.
Hostetler in the air. He's got Ismail, and Ismail still on his feet inside the 35. Gain of 14 by Raghib Ismail, but getting back to the lack of rushing for the Los Angeles Raiders. Well, Marcus Allen, what is he doing now with the Kansas City Chiefs? Well, you see what the Raiders have done, scoring just 7 rushing touchdowns all year. Marcus with 10, and his overall touchdowns 13. The Raiders have mustered 19 as a team. So they have missed Marcus Allen.
And they've scored 1 rushing touchdown today, but who did it? A quarterback. You know, that does point out a glaring weakness of this Raider offense.
Al Davis, who is referred to Marcus Allen as a cancer of this team, watching high atop as the Raiders try to hang on to the 17-9 lead as Hostetler's pass incomplete. Patrick Hunter on the coverage of Tim Brown. So that'll bring up 2nd down and 10. The ball at the 35.
You see Terry Rubisky and Art Shell working on coming up with some plays that they think will work. You know, you say how many different pass patterns can we throw? You know, you're going to have to go back to a run sooner or later, and you know they got to get this running game going. And there, Bell goes ahead and hits the hole and makes a few.
There's Bell again, and we didn't see him much of the 2nd quarter at all, but Nick Bell making his presence known here early in the 3rd quarter. In fact, we've already reached the midway point of the 3rd quarter. Hostetler's numbers so far, 14 of 20, 189 yards. As you look at Nick Bell's rushing total, going from 9 at half quickly to 29 total here.
Well, their philosophy has always been get extremely fast wide receivers, stretch defenses, and create an underbelly that's soft for a big pounding running game. No one on this team averages more than 4 yards a carry this year, and it's got to be a big concern.
Hostetler looking for the first down and trouble getting rid of it and finding Nick Bell out of the backfield, who fumbled the ball, and Seattle indicating that it has it, but the officials indicating that it is incomplete. Well, and that will bring up 4th down.
It was jarred loose, and they called it a non-catch. But I think you penalize a defensive player there that makes a great hit. I think we'll take another look at it here. Bell just slipping out of the backfield to your left. Hostetler gets some pressure, has to get rid of it, and that looks like a catch and a caused fumble. I think you're penalizing a defensive player making a great play there.
Well, this will be a 48-yard field goal attempt for Jeff Jager, and this would tie his 29 field goal record that he set a couple of years ago, and Jeff Jager has it. Field goal number 29 for Jeff Jager has given the Raiders a 20-9 lead. All right, Jim, thank you very much. A classic shaping up at Mile High Stadium. Meanwhile, Jeff Jager's second field goal of the game has put him 1 field goal away from breaking his own team record that he set a couple of years ago. 29 field goals for Jeff Jager. It's been an up and down year for him as Michael Bates awaits his kick. He'll down it, but Jeff Jager 1 for 5 a couple of weeks ago in the loss to Cincinnati. Last week in Buffalo, when the Raiders won 25-24, he was 4 for 5. And right now, he's now just 12 points shy of George Blanda's club single-season scoring record of 117 points. So he's had his ups and downs, but nevertheless, Jeff Jager has been effective for the Raiders this year. As the Seahawks begin 1st and 10 from the 20, they trail it 20-9. 6:33 left in the 3rd. A flag is down as Meyer looks to the near side. John L. Williams in the vicinity, but Meyer clearly throwing the ball away. And the indication against Seattle.
Illegal use of the hands to the face, offense. Number 69, 10-yard penalty, still first down.
And that's our rookie friend, Jeff Blackshear.
Well, right at the right of your screen, number 69, you'll see him go straight to the throat of Howie Long. Now, it slips up in his face, but Howie Long feels the power on this play here. And that's what you really have to do as an offensive lineman. Get those hands out. You just can't get them up in someone's face like that.
First down and 20 after the penalty on Blackshear. Seattle's penalty yards rolling up at 50. And Meyer will give it to Warren. Warren just across the 10, maybe a gain of 2, and that'll bring up 2nd down and about 18.
I like what the Raiders have done with their defense, especially their defensive line. They're playing a lot more over and under. You know, for years they were a 3-man line. Now they've got an awful lot of big studs up there that they can line up. They'll flip Smith from end to end, but use McLaughlin, Howie Long, and Nolan Harrison inside. And I'm telling you, those are some big, strong hosses, and you're not going to be able to move them out consistently.
3rd-ranked defense in the NFL. You see the total yards a game that they've been giving up. It's ranked 2nd in the AFC, 2nd in long. Myers swinging it out to the near side, intended for John L. Williams. 3rd and long for Seattle. And you talk about an up-and-down team like the Raiders. It's been a roller coaster year for Tom Flores. Season high 365 yards last week against Kansas City, but the offense turns the ball over 4 times. And talking with Tom last night, he says, you know, you get these good performances, but you negate them. You turn the ball over, and you end up on the short end.
Well, again, Meyer says, you know, it's those mistakes, and it's really not a mistake. You've got to throw the ball in a certain spot for the receiver to catch it, and a couple times he hasn't done it.
Meyer trying to run it out, and he'll go down. The sack from Greg Townsend.
Now that was an all-pro move by Greg Townsend, a guy that, you know, for years and years was their big sack man. Now you don't hear from him as much. That's his 6th sack of the season, but he's outside. He gets upfield and clubs Andy Heck, the right tackle, out of the way. I mean, just clubs him and makes a beeline right at Rick Meyer.
Greg Townsend, the 11-year veteran out of TCU.
Oh, he's got a nice little shimmy shake there. Did you see that, Dan?
106 career sacks. 4th down and 20. This is Tootin's punt. High punt taken by Tim Brown at the 40. And Brown is wrestled down at about the 43-yard line. A return of 3. 50-yard punt by Rick Tootin. Back at the Coliseum in a moment. 106 career sack. That ranks first among active players. And Chester McLaughlin there, Dan. I guess the Chester hustle.
I haven't seen that much meat move that quick since Fred slipped in the shower one time. That's a big wiggle.
Well, here come the Raiders, and Hostetler looking down deep, and he's got James Jett for the touchdown. 56 yards. We'd seen a little bit of the rocket earlier. There is the Jet landing in the end zone, and down for the Seahawks is Patrick Hunter, who was chasing the track star with 4-1 speed down the near side.
Just a streak pattern. A lot of times after a sack, the other team gets the ball, you're on an emotional high, you want to strike in a hurry. Well, I don't think there's a guy in the league that can get there quicker than this guy. Absolutely appropriate name for this guy here, Dan. James Jett. Another look at it here. And you kind of have to feel sorry for someone trying to cover someone that runs a 4-1.
That'll shock you. James Jett, his first catch of the afternoon, goes 56 yards for the score.
You know, this kid is very, very talented, and you know, for how he becomes a free agent in this league with that kind of speed and be able to score that quickly, it's amazing. I tell you what, very, very talented young man right there.
There he is, the gold medalist, a part of the U.S. Olympic 400-meter relay team. We asked him about, well, will you be there in Atlanta in '96? And he says, well, I only need about a year or so to prepare, so check with me in '95.
Well, I don't know. I've known a lot of guys take a year off, but I don't know if Al Davis would go for it.
Meanwhile, Patrick Hunter still on the turf at about the 1-yard line, and it may be a left shoulder.
No, Denny, I think he really was just, you know, gutting it out, trying to catch Jett. May have strained his hamstrings, and he's just letting them kind of cool and relax. More than likely, he did pull a string, trying to chase that guy with a motor.
Well, who was it? Robert Blackman, the strong safety for the Seahawks. We asked him about, well, what do you think about all this speed in the Raiders wide receiving core? And we asked him about that. He said, what are you going to do? He said, we'll back up.
Yeah, well, they didn't back up enough on that one. Jett just ran the streak pattern. And again, another thing you can't overlook is the fact that Hostetler laid it up perfectly.
Let's go to New York and Jim Lamb. Mile high. Thank you very much, Jim. Patrick Hunter, meanwhile, is up and around for Seattle. James Jett, fresh off his 3rd touchdown of the season, and his average will continue to climb. Here's a guy that comes in with a 24-plus average yard per reception. Jeff Jager to attempt the point after. It is good. And the Raiders lengthened their lead to 27-9. Well, tonight, NBC has a blockbuster twin bill for you. First at 7 o'clock, 6 Central. You can blast into the future with George Jetson and his family on the network premiere of The Jetsons. Then NBC presents E.T., one of the all-time greats. From Steven Spielberg, 2 great movies, The Jetsons and E.T., starting tonight at 7, 6 Central tonight. The Jetsons tonight. James Jett just a moment ago giving the Raiders the 27-9 lead, and 17 third-quarter points by Los Angeles after just the 10-9 halftime lead. They've exploded, but it has not been on the ground. It's been the big play.
Exactly. And, you know, we've talked an awful lot about how the Raiders, without a running game, may be setting themselves up for a big fall. Well, I tell you what, the big play by Tim Brown, and then, of course, a couple of big scoring strikes by the Raider offense, especially the wide receivers. You know, that is the thing. When you have that much speed, it's only a matter of time until they explode and they shock you with some quick scores. You know, that's what the Raiders did for so many years. And again, this team is so talented. If they all show up, they all stay focused, who knows? I don't think you can count these guys out of the playoffs and doing something once they get there.
Well, there's another track star, Michael Bates, but with the effectiveness of Jeff Jager's kickoffs today, Bates has not had much of a chance to return, but he'll bring this one out from 3 or 4 yards deep. 15, 20, 25. And an excellent return for Michael Bates all the way up to about the 29-yard line. And the Olympic sprinter, the bronze medalist in the 1992 Olympic Games, showing off his speed. What has the NFL turned into, Hamp? Well, in your days, the only track star I remember is Willie Gall.
Well, again, you know, you're always looking for speed, and Buddy Ryan used to tell us, he says, I don't know if speed creates luck, but I think the guys that can really run, they're always a lot more lucky than the guys that can't.
Well, Patrick Hunter, injury report, a injured left shoulder. He will not return, so the Seahawks will play the rest of this one without their right cornerback as Meyer hits Brian Blades. Terry McDaniel on the coverage for the Raiders, and Chester McLaughlin a little slow in getting up, but the big cat back on his feet.
Kind of looks like a big cat there, doesn't he? That or a tractor, I don't know which.
ACC Lineman of the Year, Chester McLaughlin for Clemson a couple of years ago. And call it a gain of 6 or 7 for Brian Blades, bringing up 2nd down and 3. And Warren caught in the backfield for a moment by Howie Long, is able to escape the clutches of Long and pick up the first down, but a flag is thrown down at the 38.
Offside, defense, number 75. Penalties decline. First down.
Well, that's one way to make a big play, is to jump off sides and dive between a couple of blockers, hit a guy in the back. Watch on the right of your screen. Howie down inside, he just gets in the guard's pocket. Now, the tackle has got to cut him or do something there. Howie almost able to make a big play for his defense. Still ultra quick after all these years.
3:44 left in the third. Seahawks trail it 27-9. Meyer going deep downfield in the direction of Brian Blades, but Blades well covered. There was a couple of Raiders, Lionel Washington and Eddie Anderson, step for step with Blades.
If there's one thing that maybe Rick Meyer doesn't do as well as I think he will 5 years from now, that is throwing the ball deep. I think he's got a real good feel for this offense, but the intermediate patterns are what I think that Seattle has to concentrate on to try to climb back into this thing.
Well, I think Tom Flores would think that Rick Meyer would already move into 3rd place. The NFL rookie quarterback in passing yardage mark. He needed 97 to move into 3rd. He only has 74. Will try for more here. Avoids the sack and gets it away. Making a nice reception at midfield was Doug Thomas, who earlier in the ball game dropped the football. Eddie Anderson put the hit on Anderson. The pressure coming on Meyer from Anthony Smith.
Well, not only Rick Meyer, but Hostetler does the same thing. Watch him come back here, stand tall and strong. Right there, Smith had a big paw on him, but it didn't affect him. I mean, he was able to go ahead and execute, throw the ball where he wanted to. Very impressive in the pocket.
A couple of yards short of the first down on 3rd down, and the pitch. This is Chris Warren, and Warren has the first down, but another flag has been thrown. So just when we thought we were out of the penalty mode, we return.
You know, so much of the time I watch all these different running backs around the league, and invariably they were, over time, remind me of someone.
Offsides, defense, number 51. Penalties decline. First down.
Penalty on Aaron Wallace. Seahawks will decline, pick up the first down into Raider territory, now at the 41.
But getting back to the running back, reminding me of somebody, the more I watch him, the more I think Chris Warren reminds me of Franco Harris. Watching really through the rest of the game. I mean, very strong and faster than he looks like he's going.
Meyer to the air, going for the end zone, and picked off. Terry McDaniel's going to come out with it. And Terry McDaniel with his 5th interception of the season. An acrobatic, spectacular interception, just taking it out of what could have been a reception for Brian Blades. Terry McDaniel picks up the 15th interception of his career.
Well, again, Rick Meyer Going deep hasn't been his strong suit all year. This time, laying it up a little bit over the wrong shoulder. You've got to throw that ball out more towards the post. That enables the defender to get a chance at it. That was an excellent play on the ball by McDaniel, showing why he went to the Pro Bowl last year. He's one of the best in the AFC.
I was going to say probably one of the best kept secrets of cornerbacks in the NFL. Terry McDaniel showing you why he went to the Pro Bowl last year, and already with his 5th interception, having his best year in the interception department. Nick Bell with a carry, trying to get across the 10. It's up to about actually might have made it to the 14.
Well, I think he fell over about 20 guys and finally made about 8 more yards. He just kept rolling over those big bodies.
Meanwhile, it's the 16th interception of the season for Rick Meyer. And that's another one of those throws that he would like to have back. We talked with him last night about he was very happy with his performance last week, but says if I could just take a couple passes back each game, I'd be fine.
Well, that one and the one in the end zone right before the half, that really was an undo.
The Raiders have not been successful in the second half. Only this day they are outscoring Seattle 17-0 in the second half. Hostetler, pass complete. And it is Alexander Wright with a gain of 15. James Jefferson on the coverage for Seattle. But Alexander Wright, another one of the Raider burners. Here's a guy that has won the NFL's fastest man contest the last 2 years.
Well, I did it the first year he won it. And
what do you mean you did it?
Well,
you raced in it?
No, I don't think I could fall out of the gate as fast as somebody. But the thing is,
just wanted to clarify.
I mean, he looked faster than all the other fast guys. I mean, he stands out in a class by himself. Very, very fast wide receivers as a group.
Wright has 3 catches for 58 yards. Nick Bell looking to get up to the 30-yard line, gains about 3, and that'll bring up 2nd down and 7 as we approach the end of the 3rd quarter. And we were talking with James Jett yesterday. We were talking about all the speed on this Raider wide receiving core, and in order to send the next man, representative from the Raiders, how are they going to settle that? Well, they might have a session at the Raiders camp to decide who goes, and we were joking that it might look like the Olympic trials. But whether Jet or Rocket or Wright or Tim Brown's in there too.
I'm telling you, they can line up a whole fleet of them.
2nd down and 8. Hostetler with time. He's got the 1st down to Ethan Horton. Horton's across the 40 to the 41, brought down by Kevin Murphy. A gain of 11 for Horton, and that should be the final play of the 3rd quarter. 17 third quarter points for the Raiders. They have the lead 27-9. Back after these messages from your local station. Well, there's the Hall of Famer Fred Biletnikoff, now the Raiders wide receiver coach. And to wrap up the discussion a moment ago, we know that Fred Biletnikoff, we know who he thinks is the fastest of his receivers. James Jett.
Yeah, he said it's a no contest, hands down the fastest guy I've ever seen.
Well, they're all fast. Who's the fastest? Hostetler to another fast man, Alexander Wright. Wright wrestled down at about the 49, or wrestled out of bounds out there by Robert Blackman. And a look at the statistics through quarter number 3. The possession time very even. But now the Raiders beginning to pull ahead big time in the total yardage department.
Well, if you was to tell me before the game that Seattle will have 120 rushing yards after 3 quarters, I'd say, hey, they're doing exactly what they want to do, and they will be winning. What has happened, the Raiders have struck big with some big play from guys like Tim Brown and James Jett, and boom, all of a sudden they're down. Now they're playing catch up, and it looks like Vince Evans is coming in.
Vince Evans, the 14-year veteran warming up. We'll be right back in Los Angeles. Jeff Hostetler on the sidelines as Vince Evans has taken over. And it appeared that that sore ankle buckled a little bit in that last play when he was pressured. And so Vince Evans, in his 14th year out of USC, takes over at quarterback and hands off to a rookie, Randy Jordan. And Jordan picks up the 1st down. 12-yard gain for Randy Jordan, just the 3rd carry all season for the free agent rookie out of North Carolina. But I know you know Vince Evans very well, Dan Hampton. He played for the Bears back 77 through 1983. And there are the numbers for Vince Evans in his limited duty this year, but he's done well in the backup role for Jeff Hostetler.
If you look at those quarterback ratings, he has a better rating than Hostetler. And, you know, and what's funny, I've been doing this for 3 years in the booth. I played for 12. He was there a long time before I got to Chicago. So that gives you an indication.
Sportsmanlike conduct, offense, lingering, 15-yard penalty, first down.
Lingering.
My. Aren't we being picky today? Hey, Vince Evans is an old man. It takes him a while to get out there.
He does a lot of lingering at his age.
Art says, look, what are you going through the glossary of penalties and trying to find something you haven't called on us yet? Well, let me see. Lingering. Yeah, we'll throw that. He can't believe it.
38 years old. Vince Evans, you may do a little lingering.
But I tell you what, you see this guy with his shirt off, he looks like Tarzan. I mean, the body of a 22. He keeps going down to the fountain of youth. I don't know where it is, but I'd like to get a limo and go now.
Raiders and Bears NFL stints sandwiched around a couple of USFL stints. And he's got his first pass completion. Nick Bell, who is across midfield. It was first down and 25. And it'll bring up second down and long. Terry Wooden and James Jefferson able to chase down Nick Bell.
Well, look at this. Cortez double in the middle of your screen. He gets outside and sniffs his screen. Watch it. Dance of the Rhino. Look at this. Trying to miss a big guy like that. How can you do that?
Yeah, hard to slow down at the Tez's.
All day long,
size.
He faces a double team, and yet he keeps fighting, keeps plugging, and he'll show up at the end of the day. He'll give you every dollar that you pay.
I think it was the Raider left guard Steve Wisniewski who said they're kind to say that Tez is 300 pounds.
They're doubling again.
And Evans will go down, and this time in the grasp of Tyrone Rogers. And that is the first sack of the season for Rogers, the second-year free agent out of Washington. He played on the Huskies' co-national championship team a couple of years ago.
Well, this is the point in the game where you want a running game and just kind of turn the ball over to your big running back and let him go for 150 yards. Well, no, the Raiders don't have it, so they're still having to throw the ball. And, you know, of course, Seattle is going to keep coming. That time, Evans sacked by Tyrone Rogers.
James Jett, Tim Brown, and the Rocket in the offensive set for Vince Evans on third and long. And the pass complete on the far side to Ethan Horton, and he tried to dive for first down yardage, but the first down marker's at the 27. So,
well, you know, this being the Coliseum, the Olympic pools next door, I almost expected guys with cards to stand up and give him a rating on that dive.
Well, it's we mentioned the classic matchup that has been happening at Mile High Stadium. The Denver Broncos back on top of Kansas City, 24-21. And the report on Jeff Hostetler, a twisted knee, as Jeff Jager has come in to attempt which would be a 50-yard field goal. But this one sails wide to the right.
Well, I don't think it takes a genius to figure out if Seattle's going to get back in this. They got to do it on this drive.
Raiders up big, 27-9. A moment ago, Jeff Jager's try from 50 yards out that slipped there, causing him to miss, and thus it does not enable him to set the record. Remember, he's already got 2 field goals today. He's at 29 for the season and trying to reset the record he set a couple of years ago. So the Seahawks in business at the 31. Rick Meyer to throw, and he's got Chris Warren.
I was watching Howie Long the entire way there. Unbelievable.
Well, let's go back to Jim Lampley in New York.
All right, Dan, we told you we'd show you what happened next at Mile High. After a Denver blocked punt on 3rd down 5, Elway for the 3rd time in the game to Shannon Sharp, and Denver goes back on top again, 24-21 over Kansas City, 8.5 minutes to go. Back to Dan and Dan.
All right, Jim, thank you. Here at the Coliseum, the Raiders in command by 18, 27-9 over Seattle. Clock ticking at 10:50 to go. And Meyer has a wide open Kelvin Martin, and Martin's across the 35 to the 37-yard line, but it was 2nd down and a long.
It looks like it's going to be holding called on Derek Grills, the left guard. The takedown on Big Chester McLaughlin. Oh, tripping again.
And a penalty on Seattle.
Tripping, offense, number 64, 10-yard penalty, still second down.
Tripping on Derek Brills, the left guard for Seattle.
Watch on the right of your screen. 91 makes a good inside move, slaps, goes around it. Brills just trying to get him on the ground best where he can. Does kind of a cross body block that I haven't seen since junior high, but got him on the ground. Unfortunately, was called.
Talk about a hole. Second down and 27 for Seattle. The first down marker's all the way up at the 42-yard line, and they keep it on the ground. And Warren is lucky to get back to the line of scrimmage. You know, we talked so many times with Tom Flores all season long, and the one thing that he keeps pointing to is the fact that he doesn't quite trust the offensive line enough to enable Rick Mirer the time to throw downfield. And when Seattle gets in a hole, they have problems getting big gains.
Well, their whole philosophy is don't get in the hole, but again, you know, you're matched up in a game where you got to come back. Your offensive line going to get some holding calls. You got to be able to overcome it.
Mirer back to pass, just dumps it over the top to Warren, and he'll run across the 30 before he's finally knocked out of bounds by Lionel Washington. Gain of 17 for Chris Warren. And another flag is down at the 5-yard line.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, number 51 on the defense, 15-yard penalty, first down.
Aaron Wallace called for a roughing the passer penalty. And that will give the Seahawks a first down.
Well, that will be a first down.
It's one way to pick it up.
Well, Rick Mirer from Notre Dame, Aaron Wallace from A&M, they're going to match up in the Cotton Bowl. I think they're getting it on a little bit early here, Dan. That's a costly one. If they weren't in such a blowout kind of game here, that would really be a blow to them.
So with the penalty, the ball's at the 48. The Seahawks have a first down, but Chris Warren will lose a couple more. Howie Long able to make the stop for the loss.
Yesterday in practice, I was talking with Howie, and I did a game a couple weeks ago, and Howie really wasn't a big factor. I said, do something tomorrow so I can talk about you, will you? And I think he's listening. He's made about 6 or 7 great plays today already.
2-yard loss. Mirer pressured. Wallace had a shot at him, but he escapes. Howie Long had a shot at him, but he escapes. And Mirer diving for what appears to be a first down for Seattle. 2 Raiders had a shot at him, and Mirer was able to escape for 11 yards.
I'm telling you, it's Jim Thorpe reincarnated. This guy has done it all by himself today. Here, the pocket collapses, bringing a blitz from the outside. Wallace on him again. He slips out. Smith can't get him. Now Howie misses him. That's obviously sloppy tackling, but hey, you got to give Rick Mirer some credit. This kid will get some yardage if you don't hem him up. Terrific when he has to get out of the pocket and make something happen.
Well, it appeared he had the first down, but as the officials check, he is that much short. But Rick Mirer has 47 yards rushing today on 6 carries. And Chris Warren has 65 yards on 18 carries. So that'll bring up Rick Meyer's average per carry.
Well, as he gets older, as he gets older, obviously he won't be wanting those big rushing totals. But for now, in this offense, having to play catch-up, sometimes he's going to have to make some plays. That's what he's doing.
Third down and less than a yard. 8:50 left. Seahawks down 27-9. And Rick Mirer keeps it, and that'll be a first down for Seattle.
Seattle, knowing time's growing short, going with the hurry up.
Out of the shotgun, Mirer has his man. Kelvin Martin spins before he's dropped down at the 34-yard line. Lionel Washington made the tackle on Kelvin Martin, one of the newcomers to the Seattle wide receiving corps this year. The unrestricted free agent from Dallas. He spent 6 years there and is finding Rick Mirer at the quarterback position to his liking, along with Brian Blades, those two. And Myers' pass in and out of the hands of Terry McDaniel, a chance at his second interception of the game. It was intended for Brian Blades, and that was another one of those passes that Meyer wishes he had back.
Well, he threw it behind the receiver, and that's something that, again, it takes time to feel out as a rookie, and he's had a great rookie year, but he's going to have to avoid those kind of throws.
And he continues to move up the list. He passes Norm Snead and is currently in third place. And you see the former Seahawk Jim Zorn, who holds the record. Meyer came into the game eating 331 to tie Jim Zorn, so Meyer appears to be on the verge this season of grabbing that distinction as the all-time rookie quarterback for passing yards in a season, as he hooks up there with Rob Thomas, who makes just his third reception of the season. Fifth-year player out of Oregon State.
Well, overall, Seattle has had to throw the ball an awful lot today, and Myers had to scramble, but their offensive line for Seattle is doing a pretty good job against the best pass rush in the league.
And this pass, the first of the game, to the tight end Paul Green. So Rick Meyer finding some unlikely targets. Not that Paul Green hasn't been efficient in the Seahawk offense this year. That is his 17th reception, but we hadn't seen him all game long.
Well, it's out of necessity. The two corners, McDaniel and Washington, are doing a good job on Blades and the other wideouts.
And on second down, he has Paul Green again. So 1-2 to Paul Green, who is playing on familiar turf. Second-year player out of USC. This was his home field in college.
Well, again, Seattle, their offense is not the one that'll just, explode for a lot of points. They're methodical. Green, throw the ball, to wideouts, get Warren involved. But obviously, they've been taken out of it by a couple of big plays by the Raiders.
All of a sudden, the ball at the 16, a flag is thrown as Meyer just throws it away. He was chased down by Andre Bruce.
Did you see that? Rick Meyer scrambling away from pressure, knowing if he draws it back with his right hand, he would have the ball stripped. Now, he moves it to his left hand and throws a duck. We all know that. I could have shot it with a shotgun. But the thing is, look at just the ability to improvise, to do what it takes. And let me tell you something. Seattle has made an awful lot of moves in the last 10 years. This is the best one.
Well, Andre Bruce was applying the pressure on Rick Meyer and now is called for the penalty. So Rick Meyer with the presence of mind to switch to his left hand and
incredible.
Get rid of the football. As you look at the current drive, an impressive one. Already down now at the 12.
And again, a penalty on Wallace has enabled him to perpetuate it.
And this time, Chris Warren already has a touchdown, looking for another one. Gets inside the 5, down to the 3-yard line, and that'll be first and goal for Seattle. Mike Jones made the stop on Warren. And we mentioned that graphic, Tom Flores' team early, 0-7, when trailing at halftime as more flags come into the offensive play there for Seattle. But 0-7 after trailing at halftime, and if this holds true, they'll be 0-8, although they just trailed at 10-9 at the break. Here's Gary Lane to tell us about the flags. Might have been an extra man on the field for the Raiders.
12-man defense, penalties decline, touchdown.
So the touchdown stands for Seattle. Even with the penalty, Tom Flores has the touchdown and pulls to within 27-15 as Rick Meyer
just go back.
Adds to its touchdown total.
Well, Dan, it's going to be 16-27 after this kick. But think about it. If Meyer makes the throw for the touchdown right before the half, and they don't let Tim Brown go for the return touchdown, they're ahead in this game. A couple of plays separate the good teams. Seattle just hadn't made enough of those plays.
Now the second rushing touchdown for Rick Meyer. And this is John Casey with the point after attempt. He's got it, and Seattle's got its 16th point of the game after a scoreless third quarter. Another look at Rick Meyer's touchdown.
Well, I think it's only appropriate that he runs this quarterback sneak into the end zone following his big center Donaldson, because he's the reason they got there.
Capped off by the 2-yard run by Rick Meyer, a second touchdown of his early career. Meyer already picking up 51 yards rushing and a touchdown. So we've seen Hostetler and Meyer account for some rushing yards for both clubs today. By the way, the report on Jeff Hostetler was a twisted knee. He is able to return, but with the Raiders in command 27-16, chances are we'll see Vince Evans again. Here's the kickoff, which Ragib Ismail lets go out of bounds, so they'll take it back at the 35-yard line.
Ball will be placed at the 35-yard line, first down.
And the Raiders with 6:15 left, appearing on their way to another win. This would up their record to 8-5, and we talked about that 5-game season that Art Shell talked about with us, about the fact that it began last week with Buffalo, as we watch Casey's kick.
Very close to touching that ball.
The rocket got out of the way just in time, but
put his retro rockets on to get out of the way.
So far, so good for the Raiders. 2-0 in their 5-game season to end this season. Maybe perhaps go on to the playoffs as Vince Evans returns at quarterback for Los Angeles. Ball at the 35, 1st and 10, and Evans cranks it up James Jett's way, and Jett had a step on James Jefferson. James Jett already has the 56-yard touchdown toss from Hostetler, and you saw Vince Evans thought he could have had James in the open there for another one.
Well, you'll see Evans go back. He takes a 3-yard drop and lets it go because he knows he's got to get it out there in a hurry, and Evans knows, oh, man. Now, that's the one thing that you have to look at. You know, here's a quarterback that hasn't played that much, and dealing with a guy as fast as Jett, you don't know how much to lead him. You don't know if he can run underneath whatever you can throw up there.
Evans appearing in his 7th game of the season for the Raiders. And he's got Tim Brown close to first down yardage at the 45. It'll depend on where they spot it. James Jefferson on the coverage of Tim Brown. And Tim Brown zeroing in on a 1,000-yard season. The last 1,000-yard season turned in by the Los Angeles Raiders was Mervin Fernandez back in 1989. As Tim Brown indeed picks up the first down.
Well, again, I think, you know, what Tim Brown did last week, by almost single-handedly putting his team in position to stay in the playoff race, has kind of grown for this team.
Here's the rookie Jordan.
Randy Jordan.
And he's forced out of bounds. Maybe got 2 or 3 yards on the carry. So Randy Jordan came into this game with no carries and has already picked up several here, as Steve Smith has been relegated much to the sidelines for Los Angeles with an injured ankle. Beautiful day in Southern California. The rain really came down yesterday, kind of flushed out all the smog and debris from the air, and it's been a beautiful day. Temperature in the 50s, crystal clear weather for a MetLife blimp. As you look at the Raiders really taking charge in the total yardage department. Vince Evans bumps once. And Vince Evans tries to get to the first down. Needed to get to the 45, and he's close. Don't think he got it. Kevin Murphy was there to meet a sliding Vince Evans.
Well, right here, the whole right side of the Seattle rush collapses down, and Vince says, hey, what do I need to throw it? There's no one in front of me, so he just puts it down and tries to get what he can.
Well, that was a pretty good pickup for Vince Evans, but to give you an idea of how anemic the Raiders' rushing attack has been this year, Vince Evans has the team's longest rush, and it's just 17 yards. 38-year-old backup quarterback has the longest gain of the year on the ground for the Raiders. And we'll take timeout here from the Coliseum. The Raiders in command. Feet above.
That's a big mark. I've never worked with the blimp. Oh, unless, of course, you count those years in Chicago with Fridge. I'm kind of honored.
Vince Evans' pass picked off. This is James Jefferson. And Jefferson still on his feet. Gets it back out to the 42. So there's still 4 minutes and 11 seconds left as Vince Evans throws his 3rd interception of the season, and Seattle trailing 27-16. Still in it.
Well, 4 minutes and 11 seconds. You know, this game is far from over. And again, that's where you want to put your running game in and just let them wear the other team down. Now they're having to throw the ball. Evans throws a little bad. Jefferson takes it and puts Seattle in pretty good field position.
James Jefferson, in his 5th year out of Texas A&I, has put the Seahawks in business at the 42. Meyer, there's a downfield throw, and it is not going to be on the mark for Doug Thomas, as Torrin Dorn was downfield chasing Doug Thomas.
I'm not really convinced that Rick Meyer has enough confidence in what he's trying to do throwing the ball. He's tried 3 deep passes, and none of the 3 have really been close. I think that, again, that's something he's really going to have to work on in the years to come.
Meyer 13 of 25 for 116 yards and the 1 costly interception. And he'll try again, and this time he'll be on the mark to Brian Blades. Blades got into Raider territory before he was pushed back by Derek Hoskins. And they'll spot the ball squarely at midfield. 3rd down and 3. The clock ticking with 3 minutes, 40 seconds left. And flags come in to halt the play. And probably an illegal procedure.
False start, offense, number 64, prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Second penalty of the game on Derek Brills, the left guard for Seattle.
And you can see the reason he's jumping right there at the left of your screen. The huge Chester McLaughlin lined up on him.
Well, there is Jeff Hostetler, who was able to come into the game nursing a twisted knee, and Vince Evans went into the game and threw the interception. As you see the numbers for Hostetler.
You know what those numbers say? Winner. This guy did it all himself early in the game.
So 3rd down and 8. Meyer to the air, and he's got Brian Blades for the 1st down. Eddie Anderson put a hit on Brian Blades, but as you saw Blades indicate, we got a 1st down, and this game isn't over.
No, it's not. And again, Seattle got the big return, and Meyer missed the pass for the touchdown before the half. This could be a lot different, and it still may turn out different.
1st and 10. Meyer to the left side, and he's got Kelvin Martin. That'll be a gain of 6 or 7. 2nd down and 4. As Meyer is still pinned there by Lionel Washington. So things getting interesting as we get down to the less than 3 minutes left. Ball at the 36-yard line of the Raiders. Meyer trying to run it out, trying to get by Chester McLaughlin, but McLaughlin along with Howie Long pin him in.
Watch those defensive linemen. We're taught to lay on a quarterback late in the game, keep him on the ground, and burn some more time off the clock.
And a timeout for Seattle. And as you can see,
that is their 2nd charge team timeout. This is a 40-second timeout.
the Seahawks with 2 left. And we'll return to the Coliseum. Seattle making it interesting here. With 2 minutes and 40 seconds left, they have the 2-minute warning to look forward to as far as stopping the clock, but with just 1 timeout left and trailing Los Angeles by 11, it is a tall order for the Seahawks and Rick Meyer. 3rd down and 2. Meyer's pass complete, and he's got Thomas. And Thomas has the 1st down. Mike Jones put the hit on Doug Thomas. Clock continuing to run, under 2.5 left. Meyer ducking out of the pressure, gets it away, and it's complete to John L. Williams out of the backfield. And Williams has it down to about the Raider 20-yard line. As that will be the final play before the 2-minute warning. So Seattle still with 1 timeout to work with at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. They trail it by 11. Super play of the game, and it began the 3rd quarter scoring barrage for the Raiders. Tim Brown, 74 yards later, a touchdown, the 2nd of his career. And it began a 17-point outburst by the Raiders in the 3rd quarter. Later on, James Jett would hook up with Hostetler from 56 yards out. But Tim Brown, the Hager wrinkle-free Cotton's super play of the game. Meanwhile, Seattle out of the shotgun at the 20, trying to make it interesting. Meyer to the end zone over the head of Kelvin Martin. So the good news is there's not much time at all taken off the clock. Stopped at minute 55.
Well, the Raiders, as always, challenge the Seahawks in a very aggressive bump and run. The corners up very tight. Meyer doesn't have much to do except maybe throw a deep post or a streak pattern. Maybe throw it up in the corner and see if one of his receivers can go up and get it.
Third down. Meyer swings it out to Kelvin Martin, and Martin has the first down. He's inside the 15. Clock rolling with a minute 45 left. Seahawks still with that timeout. They'll hurry to the line of scrimmage and get another play off.
Well, they got the first, but it's still a great tackle by Lionel Washington there. That could have been a slip-off.
And now Meyer simply grounds it, and that stops the clock with a minute 34 left. And the Seahawks still have the one timeout left. They trail it by 11. They need 2 touchdowns. A touchdown and a field goal will not get it done. So the picture bleak for Tom Flores, who is 0-3 against his old team, the Raiders, and seemingly on the verge of going to 0-4. And the snap from Donaldson. Meyer had to reach out and get it, and now he's on the run, chased by Chester McLaughlin, and we have another flag.
And another left-handed pass by Rick Meyer.
The ambidextrous quarterback.
They'll have an intentional grounding here.
Well, as Lionel Washington not pleased at all with Gary Lane's flag. We'll find out.
I'm not really sure exactly what the call is on this, Dan. Marking it back at the original line. We're going to call here for the offset.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, number 51 in the defense, half the distance to the goal line, first down.
Huge penalty on Aaron Wallace.
Another one. Wallace enabled the Seahawks to keep the drive going before this for the other touchdown in the third.
It was Aaron Wallace chasing Rick Meyer, and in the process roughing the passer half the distance to the goal line. And Meyer with a shot at the end zone, intended for Brian Blades, incomplete.
Another good defensive play by Washington. We're going to take another look at Rick Meyer, the ambidextrous one there, not getting a good snap. He gets it, gets out of the pocket. Now throwing it left. Wallace, now that's a little excessive. He just kind of bumped Meyer into the crowd. I think Meyer doing a good job of being the part of the actor here in Hollywood.
Second down and goal. Meyer out of the shotgun. And Meyer to the end zone, and he's got Kelvin Martin.
Great protection by his offensive line. I don't know if it's great blocking or the Raiders are just tired of rushing the passer all day.
7 yards on the scoring strike to Kelvin Martin. Martin's 5th touchdown of the season. For Meyer, his 8th touchdown pass of the season.
Again, watch the great protection. Howie Long checking in the middle, looking for the quarterback draw. They really didn't even put pressure on him, making the right decision, getting the touch.
So interesting indeed. 27-22 as John Casey lines up for the point after to try to pull the Seahawks within 4. And the point after good by John Casey. So 27-23 Raiders now, as the Seahawks have answered the Raiders' third quarter burst with 14 points here in the fourth quarter to make it interesting. 27-23, and the feeling we'll see the onside kick.
Well, again, let's go back to what we talked about in the pregame. Here's a team very talented. If they're focused, they can do a lot of good things, but it's almost like a car that pulls real bad. If you let your hands off the wheel, it'll go off in the ditch. It's almost like that for the Raiders. If Arch Hill doesn't get total focus from this team, boom, all of a sudden Seattle's right back in it.
And I know Jeff Hostetler is hurting, but the report we had was that he would be able to return to the game, but with his twisted knee. Vince Evans comes in the game and throws an interception, leads to a Seattle score, and you got to wonder how Hostetler feels watching it all unfold on the sidelines.
And both drives perpetuated by penalties against the linebacker Wallace on roughing the quarterback calls.
So we'll see the onsides here attempt.
No, you don't think, do you?
Well, I'll go out on a limb. The Raiders have their good hands team up front, including Jeff Gossett, the punter.
See, this was the one team I knew I was never considered for, as the hands team on the kickoff return. Never once even thought about it. Great kick.
And
Great kick.
it's a good kick. And Seattle has the football.
Take this film and show it to a team every year and say, this is how you execute the onside kick. Perfect kick, perfect coverage.
There is a massive huddle on the far side at midfield.
It went 10 yards.
It did go 10 yards, and now Gary Lane will sort things out, and it just appeared that there was no doubt that Seattle had the football. Tom Flores thinks the same thing, but
again, what you want the kicker to do is top the ball, let it hit the first bounce, and then on the second one it'll kick up over the front line, and then by that time your coverage man can be there to make the reception, and it worked perfectly.
well, touching the football first, it appeared that it was Tim Brown up on the good hands team for Art Shell's team. It appeared that Tim Brown touched the football, but we still have not received any indication of if the Seahawks recovered it or not. Here's Gary Lane.
Okay, spread out, spread out.
The ball was first touched by the receiving team. The player that came inbounds from the kicking team, ball must be possessed before he can touch it. Illegal procedure, re-kick with a 5-yard penalty.
So after all of that, Seattle does not have the ball, and they'll have to re-kick. The penalty assessed to Tom Flores' Seahawk. Here's another look at it.
Again, the ball kicks up perfectly. It's touched there. Now, I don't understand why the Seahawks don't get this ball down.
Well, Tim Brown clearly touched it. It appeared that somebody came in from off the field back onto the field to recover it. And
well, see, normally a guy that is forced out of bounds, a receiver can't come back in and catch it, or you can't go down and down a punt and possess it. But the other team touched it. I don't see why.
Well, I don't believe that you can control it from coming off of the playing field.
Once the other team touches it, I think that the man coming back in should be able to possess it, which is what happened for the Seahawks.
So they've moved John Casey back 5 yards, and he'll try another one from the 30-yard line. 1:17 left. The Raiders lead at 27-23, and we've just been told that the game is over in Mile High Stadium, where the Denver Broncos have pulled out a 27-21 win over Kansas City. Another attempt by Casey, and this time the Raiders recover it. And taking a shot on the far sideline was the Rocket.
Well,
who has the turf in his face mask to show for it.
Either way, it was great coaching. I'm very impressed. Both teams executed both parts of this onside kick perfectly both times. Here, the first wave doesn't get it. It bounces over the second wave. The Rocket is there as the safety, makes a great catch. And, of course, the coverage team is on top of it.
Holding on.
The Rocket took a howitzer in the chest. That
biggest hit by far he's had this game. And the Raiders take over at midfield. And the Seahawks.
1:15. Thank you.
As they reset the clock to 1:15, the Seahawks with the one timeout still remaining, but the Raiders with the football. And force them to use one early and then just run it out.
Well, they're just going to lay down on the ball. Seahawks will stop it once, but that'll.
Vince Evans, by the way, still in a quarterback, taking the final snaps here for Los Angeles. Throwing the late interception, enabling the Seahawks to get back in it late and make it interesting. 14 fourth quarter points for the Seahawks to answer the 17 third quarter points by Art Shell's team.
Well, Art Shell 4-0 against his former coach and mentor, Tom Flores now.
And